De opname is dus gestart. Ik ga mijn presentatie delen en dan geef ik het woord aan de collega's van EACA.
Ja, goedemorgen allemaal. Mijn naam is Lislijn Kraags en u ziet ook Bart. Wij gaan samen de presentatie doen en ik begin met Erasmus Joint Masters en dan eindigen met Erasmus Design Measures. Ik ga dat in het Engels doen. Ik ga mijn screen sharen nu. Ik hoop dat dat... Ziet u de presentatie? Ja. Dus ik ga nu in het Engels verder. Erasmus Plus is a program for European Union and it supports cooperative actions in education, training, youth and sports.
Mag ik even onderbreken,
ja,
Gislijn, want we zien de presentatie niet.
Niet? Oké,
nee.
Wacht even. Dan moet er iets... Share content is het toch, hè? Ja,
ja het is...
Ziet u het nu?
Ja. En als u het nu in presentatiemodus zet, dan zien we het ook. Maar u mag het ook op deze manier doen. Het is...
Ja, dit is goed? Oké. Dus...
ja, nu is het perfect. Okay.
Ja, is het goed?
Perfect.
Goed. Dan ga ik verder. Het goede nieuws is dat Erasmus funding for the next 7 years has almost doubled. So we have now approximately 25 billion euros at our disposition. You might have noticed that some actions like capacity building for higher education or international credit mobility, which is formerly known as the Erasmus Exchange Program, do not have a call, but they will reappear in 2022. The current presentation will be available to you after this session. And as said, there will be a Q&A at the end of each presentation. And of course, you can also contact the agency. We will present programs today, the Erasmus Mundus Joint Master, which is actually the continuation or not, but replacing the current Erasmus Mundus Joint Master program, Master Degree program. And we now present a new program, the Erasmus Mundus Design Measures, which is a very interesting program for newcomers in the field, as it can provide financial support to help institutions from EU and non-EU countries in jointly developing a partnership to create a high-level excellence master program. What the Joint Master wants to provide actually is more of everything that actually existed before. It wants to offer the future successful partnerships less restrictions, more academic and mobility flexibility, simplification, more financial support, helping programs to become more sustainable, etc. Now, a little bit of history, short history. Erasmus Mundus, over the last 17 years, so 17 years ago, we launched the Erasmus Mundus Master Program. And to date, in 2021, we contracted 535 master programs consisting of 610 higher education institutions from 33 EU program countries that offered 24,500 scholarships to students worldwide, totaling a budget of 1.7 billion euro. Now presenting Erasmus Mundus Action, we have divided in 2 lots. So it comprises 2 lots. Lot 1 to the left is the Erasmus Mundus Joint Master, and a new lot, Lot 2, the Erasmus Mundus Design Measures. Just always be reminded that there is no obligation to implement an Erasmus Mundus design measure before in EMGM. And the award of an Erasmus Mundus design measure does not imply automatic funding under Erasmus Mundus Joint Master. And the completion of an EMDM project is not an award criterion for an EMGM. The new Erasmus Plus program contains 3 key actions, and formerly Erasmus Mundus was under key action 1, but we now move to key action 2. And the importance is today is more to stress is put on fostering excellence and worldwide internationalization of higher education institutions via study programs that are jointly delivered and jointly recognized worldwide. Key Action 2 supports partnerships for cooperation, partnerships for innovation, and partnerships for excellence. So in brief, it's an EMGM is a high-level integrated and transnational study program at master level. It's a program of excellence and it's open to all disciplines. It has to be delivered by an international consortium of higher education institutions from different countries worldwide and can be supplemented by other educational and or non-educational partners. The offering has to be a high level. We offer high-level scholarships to excellent students worldwide. The main objectives, well, it's to support quality, innovation, excellence, and of course, internationalization of higher education institutions through academic cooperation within the European higher education area and beyond. We have to increase quality and the attractiveness to support EU external action in higher education, increase the synergies between higher education, innovation and research, to improve the competences, the skills, the employability of master's graduates, and it's also always take care that it responds to societal and labor market needs. There is some new terminology. So the new name, Erasmus Mundus Joint Master Degree, becomes Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters. 2 independent lots, the joint masters and the design measures. For the enrolled students, both scholarship holders and non-scholarship holders are involved, also financially, and you will see this with regard to the institutional costs. The word intake will be replaced now by the word edition, so an intake becomes an edition, and the same as before, full master program cycle of 120, 90 or 60 ECTS. There is a new financial instrument for external action, which is NDICI, Neighborhood Development and International Cooperation Instrument. Also new is that heading 1, budget, so the basis becomes heading 2. The heading 4, which is the external action, becomes a heading 6. The main requirements. So a jointly designed, fully integrated curriculum and common implementation procedures. So you are expected to fulfill a jointly designed and common implementation based on standards for quality assurance of joint programs in European higher education area. The new program has to be delivered by a minimum of 3 higher education institutions, and of these 3, 2 must be program countries. So the basis is 2 program countries on which you can build. Of course, an international outreach to attract and enroll excellent students worldwide. There are no longer quotas of a minimum of number of partner country scholarships. So this means that more opportunities will be given to program country students. Main requirements. So there is a compulsory physical mobility for all enrolled students during the, let's say, 2-year master. 2 study periods need to be performed in 2 countries. Of these 2 countries, 1 must be a program country and different from the country of residence of the students.
I'm sorry
So-
to interrupt you, but there seems to be a problem with the slides that have frozen.
Oh, they are frozen.
Yes.
Oh, not the my part. Oh gosh, this is my.
We are still at Erasmus Mundus Actu New Terminology.
You are still at new terminology.
Yes.
Ooh. I don't know what's happening. Let's see. I'm gonna put my camera on, see if I am frozen. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Yes, and now we can see the slide EMGM main
Ah,
So
weird. Yes, sorry about this. I have. So I don't have to restart with the other slides, I think. No. Okay, so main requirements. So for the mobility, as I say, there is a compulsory section, which is that at least 2 study periods of the students need to be done in 2 countries. Always keep in mind, one must be a program country. The minimum duration is 1 academic semester, so 6 months with an equivalent of 30 ECTS. And then something new, contribution of scholars, guest lecturers for teaching, training, research activities, etc. It is recommended, but there are no minimums anymore of enrollment. You are expected to deliver a joint degree or a multiple degree. Joint degrees, they are of course highly recommended, but only if national legislation or institutional legislation allows this. There's something in red here which you always have to be reminded of, that at application stage, any proposal for an EMGM must be fully developed and ready to run so that it can be advertised worldwide after their successful selection. The EMGM setup. So the consortium will receive a grant agreement for a duration of 6 academic years to finance at least 4 editions of the master program, and each lasting 1 to 2 academic years, so an equivalent of 60, 90 or 120 ECTS. The start of the first edition can be no later than the academic year following the year of the project selection. We have already talked about the 2 study periods in the 2 countries. There's also something new, the geographical balance of students. So no more than 10% of the total scholarships per project in total, so for the agreement, awarded to students of the same nationality. So this is, as in EMGMD, doesn't apply to additional scholarships for targeted region. I also wanted to say here that previously funded Erasmus Mundus joint master degrees can only apply for renewal at the earliest the year before the agreement ends. So you can, as before, in no circumstances can 2 editions of a master be running in parallel, running at the same year or starting at the same year. Taking part as an organization, there's another change insofar as it's open to any public and private organizations in program and partner countries. This means that also partner countries can take the lead, or like we previously called it, be the coordinator. Participating higher education institutions from partner countries will have to commit to the principles of the European Charter, but the program country higher education institutions must have a valid ECHE. Also, the program and partner country higher education institutions must have a completed accreditation or evaluation of the master program. So minimum consortium, like before, the 3 institutions from 3 different countries, of which 2 must be program countries. Of course, other full and non-academic partners can be added and associated partners. So optional are associated partners. They can contribute indirectly to the implementation of specific tasks, activities, or support the dissemination and sustainability of the EMGM. We have here a slide in which Belgium is presented. So to the left, you see the number of coordinated EMGMDs. This is over the period of 2014 to 2020. And Belgium is very high, it's top level, number 3. So 26 of all the programs were coordinated by a Belgian institution. To the left, we have the number of full partners. So Belgium was quite high there again. Of all the programs, there were 63 Belgian institutions involved as full partner in EMGMDs. So very well done. Now, let's go into detail a little bit. So taking part as an individual. So this is for the students. It's open to students worldwide. Applicants must hold a first higher education degree or an equivalent and must not have benefited previously from an EMGM. Of course, this is for the future. This is to remind you, actually, the double funding will be checked in the future, but EMGMD, EMMC grant holders in the past can now participate to the EMGMs. The best ones can benefit from a scholarship, depending on the number of scholarships available, of course. The selection, recruitment and monitoring of individual students fall under the sole responsibility of EMGM Consortium. It's full-time enrollment. And we now go to the next. Overview of the program country scholarship holders. So here we can see, if you can see, Belgium is here in the middle. So we only had 23 program country students enrolled in the programs from Belgium. So this means that we need more promotion for seemingly Belgian students are not so well aware of our program. Now, this is more on the financial side, so the EMGM funding rules. We now propose a simplified EU grant agreement under which there are 2 main targets. To the left, the higher education institution, and this is a unit cost with regard to the institutional costs. And the second part of the agreement will be the students and the unit cost for their scholarships. And their scholarship consists of the scholarships, which is about 1,400 euros per month. On top of that, there is the individual needs. And this is previously known as special needs. Institutional costs. So these are the implementation costs of the study program. The unit cost per enrolled student is set at 750 euros per month. This is new. So if you calculate it 750 times number of months, let's say 24, times the number of enrolled students. There is a cap set at 100 enrolled students. But consortia are welcome to commit for higher numbers. But the maximum amount per project is set at 1,800,000. Also new is Same unit cost for scholarship holders and non-scholarship holders. So, and the same unit cost for program and partner country students. The unit cost includes, for example, staff costs, travel costs of staff, invited guest lecturers, promotion, dissemination, organizational costs, services, student services, and all other costs necessary to implement a successful master program. Student scholarship. At student level, the full scholarships covering subsistence, installation and travel, and the fee waiver. The fee waiver means actually that you cannot request tuition fees, or previously known as participation costs. A single unit cost per scholarship holder. So you calculate 1,400 euros times the number of months, let's say 24 months. And this will come to a maximum amount that the students will get for this grant, totaling 33,600 euros. So the calculation, 1,400 times, let's say 24, times number of students, which is set at a maximum of 60. So on top of the institutional cost comes 2,016,000 euros per grant. Again, the same unit cost for program and partner country students. Let's see this a little bit more graphically. Everything to the left, so everything yellow, is how we calculated before. So it was quite, we had to do some work. So you see that program country students get a maximum of 26,000. Then depending on the distance, we had to calculate how much partner country students would gain at their grant. But now this is all set. Everybody gets, in the blue, 33,600. Additional funds. This is the EU external priorities. So we have two financial instruments, which is the IPA. So the consortia can apply for additional funds for students from regions of partner countries financed by the NDICI, so Neighborhood Development and International Cooperation Instrument, and the maximum here is set at 18. On top of that, IPA, the Instrument for Pre-Accession Assistance, is set at a maximum of 6. So EMGMs proposed for funding may receive up to 18 additional scholarships. So we come to an extra amount which is set also to a maximum of 1,238,400 euros per grant. The EMGM call is opened, so it opened on the 21st of April. I have to say that it is the e-forms to be filled in are not operational or will be operational in the very near future. The deadline is the 26th of May, but please consult the website. It might be that this deadline might be extended. The total budget that we have for 2021 is 98 million and 24 million for heading 6. The number of projects, approximately 25. And so always keep in mind the number of scholarships is a maximum of 60 plus a maximum of 24 for additional scholarships per project. And I will now leave the floor to you for questions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for this first presentation. Well, there is in the chat, there is at the moment one question. I will read it out loud. It's in Dutch. So, zijn er nog maxima voor de tuition fees? En mogen we tuition fees vragen aan scholarship studenten?
Bart, ga jij of moet ik?
Ja, nee, dat is goed. Dus het Staat tuition fees te vragen voor non-scholarship holders. Gaande van 0 tot zoveel als nodig is. Wij vragen alleen dat scholarship holders geen tuition fees moeten of mogen betalen. Dat is het principe. Dus ook voor degene waar er, voor de non-scholarship holders, waarvoor je een participation cost, een bijdrage institutional cost krijgt, kan je nog bijkomend een tuition fee vragen.
Oké, dank u. Dan wordt de vraag gesteld of dat de presentatie nog kan verspreid worden. Ja, die zal verspreid worden. De presentatie die nu gegeven wordt, die ga ik doorsturen naar iedereen die zich ingeschreven heeft. En die kan dan ook eventueel nog verder in de eigen universiteit verspreid worden als het moest nodig zijn. Een volgende vraag is het volgende. In de programmagids is er sprake van een verlenging bij een goede score. Gaat het dan om een gebruik van het label of hangt daar dan ook financiering aan vast, aan die verlenging?
I just saw that somebody requested that we reply in English.
Yes, I see it as well now. Popping up.
We can maybe indeed take it in English.
Yes.
So, no, the additional 3 years do not come with extra financing. They only allow the consortia to continue with the name, with the label for 3 additional years, if indeed they get a score of above 75 out of 100. But it does not come with additional funding, no.
Okay, the next question then is, can they apply for new financing tools?
Yes, of course. As of the year before their contract ends, they can reapply for funding again. This 3 additional years does not prevent them from applying for funding under Emdm or the successor program, if there will be anyone for those who will be selected beyond 2025 or something.
Okay, thank you. At the moment, I don't see any questions. Yes, okay, here's the next one. Can the label still be requested if a reapplication for funding is unsuccessful?
Yes, of course. The selection for funding is something that is not guaranteed, even if you have a high score. This depends on other factors, such as the number of applicants. So in a year where there would be a lot of excellent proposals, your non-selection does not imply that your project or your proposal would be of less quality. So it is something to be seen separately. And the score is also not given on any application, but on the implementation at final report stage. So they are not really related. If that answers your question.
I think it will. Yes, it does. Thank you. It's set in the chat. If there is anyone who would like to ask a question, you can also still raise your hand if you like, and then I can give you the floor. But if there are no further questions, then no, I don't. Yes, I see. Yes, I see Elke. You can take the floor.
Yes, I've already asked this question via email, but I was told that I would receive information at a later date. In the previous edition of this program for 60 credit masters, the 2 compulsory mobility periods were a maximum of 20 credits, and I wanted to know if that exception still exists or if they also have to have 2 compulsory periods of 30 credits, because that makes a difference for one of our applicants.
Yes, indeed. I remember the question. However, we didn't forget it. The answer is still pending. We would. The problem is the way it's phrased in the program guide leaves no possibility to grant an exception. but I think this is something that can be included or can be, maybe there is margin for maneuver, but we are still investigating on whether the 60 ECTS programs could indeed implement the 20 ECTS minimum. So we will still get back to that question through the mailbox, but at the moment we don't have a final answer on this yet.
So they applied in a previous edition, but because of maybe the changed situation, would they be eligible to apply for a design measure now? To rethink their master?
We will come to the design measures in the next presentation. Would it be eligible? Yes, for sure, but the scope of a design measure is something particular. We will come back to that later, and maybe is not entirely compatible with with running EMGMD programs, masters who are already very developed in their cooperation agreements and their cooperation settings. But I'm not sure whether it's totally compatible or whether it's the intention. So it is more than just a preparatory year that you ask for, as you used to get automatically upon an EMGMD selection. Now the idea is to widen the scope and to widen the offer of master programs, and to create something innovative. Maybe there's a way to apply and to defend in your application why you would be asking for it, and maybe you would succeed. But if you are just rethinking slightly the structure of an existing program, then I would say it's not really within the scope of an EMDM to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then there is also Anne-Sophie who raised her hand. Anne-Sophie?
Yes, thanks for the presentation. The increase of the institutional cost is really big, even though there's no separate line for tuition fees anymore. But how do we see this? Don't we expect a bit two speeds with the currently running editions from the previous framework, and those new ones who will exist next to it? And then the ones from the previous framework, are they also eligible to apply for the label? Will they also be eligible after the end of their...
And that this is still, thank you for your question, yes. As for the label, I think this is still pending, and it is definitely our intention to also grant this opportunity for the EMGMDs. However, it is not foreseen in the program guide of the EMGMD program. So we need to still work and consider in order to make that possible. But yes, it is the intention that they would also be eligible to that possibility. As for the two speeds, yes, this is something that we have to take into account, that there will be students applying in the same catalog, and then under the old program they got a certain amount, and under the new programs they got a higher amount. This is definitely something that we will need to explain and take into account. It will not be the case that the old program fees and institutional parts will be raised. So this is something we cannot do. So up till the last edition of the EMGMD, which was selected in 2020, up till the run, there are to some extent differences between the old and the new one. Yes. We just consider that it's an improvement for those who reapply and newly apply. And it's up to the agency and us to explain that indeed there are differences with the pasts. But unfortunately, we cannot raise or put them at the same level.
Okay, thank you. Then there's still one question in the chat. Are we moving the application cycle from now on, or was it or was it for this year alone?
It is definitely our intention to publish calls earlier, and also to be able to get all the projects started, all the programs running by autumn, and to be able to select them before. As you understood, this year it's an exceptional circumstances coming in which many elements came together, such as the late funding decision and then the new systems, the new program, which caused the delays we are currently facing. About these delays, we really hope and even think that this week the call documents will be online. We apologize that they were not online before, but there again, there's many factors, IT services, new systems, and so on that caused these delays. We are also considering, as Ghislaine also already said, possibly an extension of the deadline. We cannot commit to anything at this stage. We are also considering, we know the situation is very difficult. And for example, what we can say is that the mandates, which will need to be signed by all partners, will not be requested at application stage, but will only be requested to selected applicants. In that way, we are investigating ways to give the applicants more time to at least get their application, even by the new deadline possibly, but definitely we are aware of the difficulties you are all facing.
Indeed, we do know about all the difficulties and that the applicants are facing. It's not only on the centralized level, but also on decentralized level that we have this. There is still another question that came in from Gracien, who is asking, which are the targeted regions in the world?
Yes, there is country lists already available, and some countries are listed and others are not. I think in comparison to the past, for example, Russia and ENI East, the Eastern Partnership, will not be eligible. Most of the others are. This is also subject of negotiation up to the last point and will be clear even at selection stage, because you will have the possibility to ask for a number of countries under the NDICI instrument, but it's not because you will be selected that you automatically get all the requested NDICI scholarships or funds either. So this too is a very difficult debate we are still having up to the last moment. But the country list will soon be published, or has been published in the meantime. And this will be clear once the call documents will have been published soon.
The same person who asked this question added a complemented question, but I think it's already in your answer. Is there a clear list of targeted regions? But there is also maximum 10% of students from the same nationality. Strange, taking into account that there are many more candidates from Russia than for example, from a smaller country such as Albania.
Yes, indeed. And there's China and India and so on. There's Germany versus Luxembourg, Belgium. You can indeed say this. There used to be a threshold of 75% partner country students, 25 maximum program country students. This is completely abandoned. The only way to ensure that there is some balance, at least, that not all scholarships go to German or Chinese students, is this limit of 10%. Is it ideal or is it fair? Maybe the choice has been made to limit it at 10%. And yeah, that is that. it's not something that will change. It's just to ensure balance. I think if you consider not smaller countries, but the whole world, that if 10% of your funds go to only one country, situation for the students in that country. So maybe you should rather consider the 10% in comparison to the whole world than the 10% to one country versus maybe 10% to another country. This is another way to look at it. But 6 out of 60 scholarships to the same country is definitely not a bad thing or a bad division.
Okay, thank you. There's still one more question that I would like to address, and it goes as follows. Under the old programs, also options for joint PhD programs were possible. Did this option move to another EU program?
Already under the EMGMDs, there were no options for PhDs or PhD scholarships at least. So yes, it's the Marie Sklodowska-Curie action who covers this now. Under the EMGM and EMDM, there will also be no scholarships available for PhD. I missed a part of the question, so I hope I answered it correctly. Because
yes, I think you answered the
myself.
question completely. That yeah, but sometimes there's some just with the connection something not always very well, but it's a complete answer. So I think we will stop here with the questions for the EMGMs, and I think we better move on also to the second part of the presentation about the Erasmus Mundus design measures, and the floor is all yours.
Yes, I'm just trying to get the presentation. Yes, can you see my presentation?
Yes, okay.
Okay, and now I move down to the slides. I hope they will not be blocked. So the second part of the presentation indeed is about the Erasmus Mundus design measures. This is a new lot, and it's created to make it easier and for people to apply to a very demanding EMGM program, which comes with a lot of pre-requirements. So if you're not quite yet ready for an EMGM, you may launch and start with an Erasmus Mundus design. This is the rationale behind the design measures lot is to fill the gap of the Erasmus Mundus action by supporting the development of new master programs. New in the sense that we want to diversify the offer and focus mainly on underrepresented Erasmus Mundus program countries, institutions, and or thematic areas. Some more explanation about that. For inspiration, look at the catalog. There's an existing catalog of running EMGMD for the moment programs, where you can see what fields are already covered and by whom, by which partners. We receive in the mailbox a lot of questions about, okay, can we, as a Belgian institution, cooperate with a French and a Spanish institution, knowing that there's already a lot of partners from those countries? The answer is yes. I mean, there's no eligibility criteria here. Then I would say that in your application form that you are covering a thematic area that is innovative and underrepresented, not really present in the current EMGMD or Erasmus Mundus offer. Vice versa, if you have partners from Lithuania or the Baltic states, and maybe some of the North Macedonia or Serbia, and you have a unique partnership, but you are implementing or considering to implement a master program in an area that is already covered, then this is also not very innovative. So the challenge there would be to show that you are doing something that will add something to the course offer also, regardless of your innovative partnership. So we will not say that you cannot apply if you have a French partner or if you are covering something that is already remotely or vaguely covered by the existing offer. We just say that your challenge or the challenge of the applicants applying under this lot is to demonstrate that they are innovative and covering something, as stated here, that is underrepresented. What is an EMDM project? It's a grant to support institutions in the setup of a new joint master program in Europe and beyond. So it is applied, or the applicant is one mobilize a group of other higher education institutions. And it is, as Ghislaine already clearly mentioned, completely independent from the EMGM project. So being selected in an EMDM project does not guarantee also that once you will receive funding under the EMGM project. One beneficiary that, of course, is making the application and will sign the contract. We will ask for the partnership, the partners to be identified somehow in the application documents, even though they will not be needing to sign mandates and sign the grant agreement and so on. So definitely the application is easier also in terms of administration than it is for an EMGM project, but the partnership already needs to be identified and will be part of the award criteria also. One beneficiary, as stated, will mobilize a group of higher education institutions with the aim to set up in the future, that is international joint master program, a consortium. Not necessarily an EMGM consortium, by the way, it can also be in the framework of another joint program. The fixed duration is 15 months for all, and the EU grant, the same for all, is a lump sum of 55,000 euros. So the costs linked to the activity necessary to set up the new joint master program must not be demonstrated by invoices and so on. We will just ask you for proof of the implementation of your activities, as is always the case for lump sums, and not so much for real costs and to keep all audits, for audits, keep trace of all invoices and staff costs and so on. So it can cover a lot of things, staff costs, travel costs, even the costs for accreditation, all the require a detailed cost administration, as may be the case for other programs. What are the expected outcomes of an EMDM? In fact, those are the things that are expected for EMGMs as a pre-requirement, so to start. It's a joint program design, joint procedures, an idea about the joint administrative and financial management, common services offered to students in place or agreement about those services, joint promotion strategy, dissemination, a draft joint partnership, student agreement, a draft of what the students' rights and obligations are, a joint degree policy, very important, and the accreditation. Is your joint program, will it be composed of existing courses or will it be new, and how the accreditation process of those courses will be launched. We do also hope that you would explore the possibilities offered by the European approach for quality assurance of joint programs if your national legislation allows it. The evaluation procedure is slightly more easy than under an EMGM. So the EMGM works with 3 independent experts. The Emdm will use 2 only. And as a threshold, the proposals must score at least 60 points overall. In case of ex aequo, priority will be given to projects with highest score for relevance of the projects and then impact. We did not reproduce the detailed award criteria. You can surely find them in the program guide, but there's no hidden surprises or whatsoever. Everything written in the program guide are the award criteria, and often beneficiaries or applicants ask, but what is the most important? Or the answer is always what is written and what the experts will base their assessment on are exactly the award criteria as they are listed in the program guide. So here again, we were hoping to open or to have the call documents online mid-April. Now we hoping to get them in April. The deadline for now, at least, is 26th May. And the budget is around €2 million, which will allow to select to grant around 36 projects. And if you have further questions, we can take them now. Just in the presentation, we also have some documents where you found this already and know where it is. But on the last page, this is our old but still functional address of the mailbox. We have a new one as well, but this one still redirects to the new one, so you can use this one to contact us for any further or detailed question you still have. We try to answer fast, such as the one of Elke Timmermans, which was a bit more complicated or requires more negotiation and maybe an adjustment here or there. It takes more time to reply, but for straightforward questions or easy questions, let's say, we try to answer within 24, sometimes 48 hours. Thank you.
So thank you, Bart, for this presentation as well. If there are some questions, please, you can put them in the chat, or if you can also raise your hand. The questions about the EMDMs. There are no specific questions at the moment about the second part of the presentation, but there are still 2 questions popping up in the chat. The first one is about the EMGMs. I think we can still handle this question as well. So how should the institutional funding for the EMGM be reported? Is it also seen as a lump sum?
The institutional for the EMGM are unit costs, and they are calculated also per student enrolled per month. So with a cap of up to 100, the institutional costs are calculated on the first 100 enrolled students of so scholarships, but also a number of non-scholarship holders. Per month enrolled, you get a tuition, institutional unit costs of €750, which leads to a maximum amount of 1,800,000, not including the additional window scholarships, because also for the institutional unit costs, this is included.
Okay, thank you. A second question, but it has in fact nothing to do with Erasmus Mundus, is that the question is Erasmus Plus teacher academies were not dealt with in the presentation. That's correct, because this is not the topic of the session of today. The question was, is there any info session on that call? Well, as soon, because I think that that is a specific call as well for, about teacher academies, but as soon as there is more information and so on, then we will also organize information session specific for the teacher academies. But please do follow the information in our newsletter and also on our website about the teacher academies. If there is any news or sessions organized, we will publish it on our media from the national agency. Then the EU consortium can also include lecture from non-EU institutions that are not part of the consortium. That's also a question.
Well, so there is indeed the requirement even to organize scholar mobility, as we used to call it under the EMGMD. So the idea of guest lecturers and additional lecturers and lectures by people from outside the consortium is definitely foreseen. It's not that they are part of the consortium, but if they are a guest lecturer by nature, they are not. They come from institutions, associated partners, or they can come at least from outside the consortium as well. So this possibility is foreseen. It should be described in your application. It can certainly be an added value. We, however, do not have the minimum requirements of having at least 8 international scholars coming for at least 4 different international scholars giving lectures for at least 8 scholar weeks. This does not exist anymore, but we do expect indeed consortia to organize some scholar mobility within the consortia or without. As such, so there can be international partners, there can be associated partners, and these lecturers can come from outside the consortium or inside the consortium. But yeah. Does that cover the question? Because maybe I misunderstood, but maybe
I don't see any reaction in the chat. Thank you for the clear explanation, he said. So it's very clear. The answer is very clear. I don't see any questions in the chat anymore. Is there still someone who wants to raise his or her hand and ask a question? No, I don't see no hands popping up and no questions in the chat. So I think everything is clear by now. In that case, we will end the information session now. But first of all, I want to thank the 2 speakers for their very constructive contribution and clear explanations and presentations. I also would like to thank all of you for your participation in the session of today. And as announced during the session, I will send out a presentation to all the people that have registered for this session, and you can distribute it as well. The recording, but also the slides will also be available on our website, where you had the registration module for these sessions. Thank you all for being here, and also once again a big thank you to our 2 speakers from the executive agency. And I wish all of you a lot of success with the applications, and I do hope that in the new phase of Erasmus Plus for 2021-27, that Belgium again and especially the Flanders region as well, will be very high ranked in the statistics if it's regarding the Erasmus Mundus action for the next years. So thank you very much, and I wish you all a lot of success. Bye-bye.
Thank you for the organization. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.